monarchy in Portugal. And the monarchs at the time, they were on the liberal side, so they actually allowed the Republican Party to exist inside the monarchy, and they were trying to implement the republic. In 1908, the king and his son were killed. Basically, they were shot, and they were both killed, unfortunately. So after that, we had 2 more years of the monarchy, but then the Republic Revolution came and overthrew the monarchy and invited the king to come out. And actually, there's a funny story about the king when he left Portugal. He went on a ship that belonged to the Portuguese state. And once he got to his destination place, he said that the ship would need to return to Portugal because he belonged to the state. And although we had a republic now, the ship did belong to Portugal, so it's time to get back. So it was a nice gesture out of him, but it seems that the guy, the monarch, died without a lot of money in France, so he had not a happy ending on that term. But well, it is what it is, and
Absolutely.
Now we have a republic. So it's a brief history of the implementation of the republic, and then it was mayhem. We had anarchists putting bombs all over the place, so it's a fun time.
And it took a while, didn't it, for things to settle, to give way to
it did,
dictatorship ultimately.
Then we went to dictatorship because it was mayhem in Portugal with bombs exploding all over the place. So that's why the strong man and the dictator came to put order in a place.
Incredible. Okay, thank you for that. And it's not to be confused with Portugal Day. People were, understandably, foreigners were wishing each other a happy Portugal Day today. That's a different day. That's in June, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. All right, great to see you tonight, Daniel. We'll come back to you for this news on the NHR. Nunu also with us tonight. How are you? Happy Republic Day to you, Nunu.
Hello, good evening or good morning or good afternoon, whatever you are. So hi to everyone. Well, it was actually a day spent in home and working, so not much. I don't celebrate, not even Portugal Day. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad to know about these dates, special dates that we are celebrated, but I don't celebrate.
Okay, all right. Which is your favorite of the Portuguese public holidays?
Oh, on the public, maybe Portugal Day.
Yeah. Okay, the one in June. Yeah.
Okay. Probably
summertime in June. Okay, and 25 de Abril is always pretty special, isn't it, for Portuguese people? So great to see you. How's the world of insurance?
Well, pretty calm. Everything goes well. No big announcements on the Portuguese insurance market. Everything goes on a steady way.
That's how we like it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Good to see you. So it did come up in the last webinar, cost of living, of course, the price of health insurance in Portugal, so much more competitive and reasonable than it is in the United States. So if you've got any more questions about that, if you want, we can't do quotes, you'll have to ring up Winsurance for that, and they will be happy to talk to you directly, unlike a lot of insurance companies. But generally speaking, anything you'd like to know about health insurance in Portugal and the health system, Nuno, very happy usually to speak on how to engage with the health system and the respective differences between public and private. So great to have you here this evening. Ramai is here as well for the second time. We met you last week and we're seeing you again. Our mortgage man, how are you this evening?
I'm good. I love day off here, like the public holidays. Like I don't have any calls from the banks and everything is super calm, so I can talk to the clients. And I'm being super efficient on public holidays. So yeah, quite cool to work today.
Brilliant. All right, great to see you here. Yeah, thanks for being here this evening. The three of you, Portuguese folks, being with us on a public holiday. So thank you. Extra thanks to you for that. Let's go back to Daniel. What was it? Was it Monday evening? Not the president, I beg your pardon, not the president. He's not in the news for a change. It's the Prime Minister who was on the Portuguese TV on Monday evening. And then he announced, it seemed to be suddenly, Daniel, the NHR scheme, we're going to get rid of it. just like that on Portuguese TV in the evening. Can you tell us more?
Well, yeah, it was a surprise. I was not expecting, especially on a personal level, I was expecting some 1 or 2 months of a tone down in a peace environment, because if the golden visa that's going to end probably tomorrow or Monday for the real estate situation, it will continue for the investment funds. But I was expecting some just peace, and that's not the case. Once this announcement was made, we were flooded with requests of information from clients and strategies to adopt. So indeed, it was a surprise. We were not expecting it. And on the Prime Minister's words, basically they will scrap the program for new applicants from 2024 onward. The reading that I have is that this will start on the 1st of January 2024, but I think that we need to wait for a few developments. So if someone was on the fence on coming to Portugal and eventually requesting the NHR, time is now. If you are a European citizen considering coming to Portugal and enjoying the NHR scheme, do it now. Don't wait until 2024, because Costa, the Prime Minister, well, he usually is good for the announcements that he does. Once he goes in public and states something, usually it ends up being done, and he has full majority in Parliament. So the opinion that I have, and this is all throughout all my other colleagues, is that they will change the program and they will finish it for new applications. For people that do submit their application within the tax year of 2023, then they are in the clear and they will have 10 years of tax benefit. But so this will only affect new applications. But it was a surprise, not a peaceful week as I was expecting. It is what it is. We need to deal with it.
Yeah, and we can go immediately to the question from David. David Webber, thank you for being here. Obviously, look forward to the NHR update. We've just begun that. We'll talk more about it, the specifics. But wanted to ask if there's a good UK agent to get the application for the D7 in, who has a great track record of getting it through first time. Why not work with Gilda?
Well, Filipa is here from EI, so she can assist with that.
Excellent. Okay. Sorry, which representative from EI is here this evening?
It's Filipa.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, Filipa, good evening to you. Thank you so much for being here. How was your day?
Wonderful. Spent in a family.
Good for you.
With my family, and thank you for having me today. So Gilda isn't able to be here for personal reasons. Next week, she will be here and clear all your doubts about the visas.
Oh, wonderful, Filipa. Thank you. But you can take questions on behalf, or anything to do with the visa world, right, for us tonight?
So let me explain. So I'm a lawyer at A. So I will be joining you at the second part of your migration application. So I'll be with you with the services in Portugal.
Okay.
So everything related to that I can clear about the visa. So basically, Gilda is at the front end of the application, so she can explain everything next week. I'm in the second part of your
Filipa, you're part of that wonderful team, aren't you, that goes along with people, that helps them to feel calm. Yes, I mean, it's people. I've heard people speak of you and your colleagues in this capacity.
It's my team that accompanies everyone.
Yeah,
we review all the documents. We go with people to SEF and make sure everything is complying.
Yeah.
And then until they get the card.
How reassuring is that? How wonderful! And you've done it. You've done it a few times before, haven't you? Which is, of course, why.
Well, I lost count. Probably thousands.
And they know you. They know you.
Everyone knows us.
Yeah, isn't that superb? Okay, so David,
it's very good.
Yeah, give them a call. Give EI a call. You'll find them in the business directory of Expats Portugal. And if you're a premium member, David, you'll get a discount. And so it's worth having that conversation tomorrow. To go back to Daniel now about the timing. So when everyone suddenly realized, Daniel, that the NHR was being scrapped out of the blue, as you say, we thought it might get to the end of the year, right, before any bombshells of that kind. But Senor Costa says, okay, the NHR is going now. We're going to get rid of it. Big flurry of activity. Tell us more about that process and what that means for people. You've said, obviously, people who are on the scheme that's going to be honoured. But how specifically is this going to affect the timescale for people moving to Portugal now?
Well, it's again, if you're a European citizen, come as fast as you can, settle down in Portugal, obtain the CRUE, and after that you can obtain tax residency and request the NHR. And for EU citizens, this is substantially easy. For non-EU citizens that already have the visa granted, and they are already in Portugal or they are about to enter Portugal, I don't see this as a problem, because as long as they have a visa in the passport and the rental agreement or property purchased, the tax residency will be changed within the tax bureau. So that I don't see as a problem, because the key point here is changing the tax residency from a non-resident with a tax representative to a tax resident in Portugal without a tax representative. And this is the place where things get funneled down and that we may have problems. So if you have a residency permit, it's all good. It's just to request the tax residency and the NHR. If you have a residency visa, but not yet a residency permit and a rental agreement or property purchased, I would say that the client is in the clear, and the tax residency and the NHR can be requested. For people that are on the process of requesting a visa and they still don't have an apartment here in Portugal, they never entered the country, then this is a bit problematic, because what the Portuguese tax authorities are doing is they're not allowing the person to become a tax resident easily. A few years ago, this was quite easy to have someone as a tax resident. The tax authorities would be quite happy to have a new person that was a potential taxpayer. So it was somewhat of a no questions asked, and as long as you declare that you wanted to be a tax resident, this would be done. Nowadays, it's not that easy, but there's some strategies that can be used. So do reach out. We will need to assess the situation of each applicant. But again, visa or tax or residency permit, those applicants are in the clear. For someone that is in the process of obtaining the visa, then things may be a bit difficult, but we can try to work around stuff, okay?
So to answer Dwight's question, where exactly does one change one's residency in their district? These are sort of questions you can answer, and you can help people with this process.
Yeah, we can. It's done within the tax authorities, so it's not connected with the municipalities or with CEF. This is done directly with the tax authorities, and after it's changed within the tax authorities, then the NHR is requested online. So basically, that's the trick, is obtaining the tax residency, because once the tax residency is obtained within 2023, the NHR will be granted as long as the process is well submitted.
Right. Thanks, Daniel. Now I want to talk a bit more about this, because when people heard the news, it's like the golden visa, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, that means that, but then, okay, that might mean that as well. Oh my goodness, what are all the full implications of this? So let's go back first to talk about what the NHR meant for people, and then kind of map that forward to see what the implications are, because it's going to affect people's personal business plans, isn't it? They're if they're building their future in Portugal on a pension, for example, and the taxation of that pension changes, that could change their entire financial proposition in this country. So how was it? What was it about originally? Was it 20% flat tax on general income tax and 10% on pensions? Is that how it basically worked?
Well, you can say so, although that's a simplistic way of putting that. It depends on a lot of factors, depending on the double taxation agreements between countries, right, and where the income is taxed. So before any rush decisions are done to put Portugal off the chart and not consider coming to Portugal, my advice is have a consultancy with a tax accountant, with someone that can assess your particular situation and ascertain the impact of not having the NHR. So it's in some situations, the NHR is either neutral, in some others is beneficial. It's never harmful. The biggest advantage out of the NHR, I would say, is for people that do consider working in Portugal. So for those, a flat tax of 20% if they were highly skilled professionals, if they were in the correct brackets, it was granted. For pensioners, it's indeed the 10%. So for those two types of applicants, the NHR was substantially beneficial. For other types of income, then it highly depends on the double taxation agreements that are in place and depending on the nationalities and so on. But before indeed Portugal is given up upon because of this change in NHR, before any decisions are taken, consultancy with an accountant, I would say it's a good idea just to perceive the impacts on it. And they may be milder than the person was initially expecting. So if that is the situation, don't give up on Portugal. It may still be interesting to come here, although not having this NHR program in place.
Yeah, certainly the message we want to send out tonight is don't give up on Portugal. I mean, this is a big change, but as James Holly was saying in our last webinar, there's more to it than money. You know, the quality of life and so on accounts for so much as well in moving to Portugal. So although this is a serious matter, it's not the only matter in the mix when it comes to moving to Portugal. Right. So looking forward then with this, Daniel, and sorry, everyone, if we are dominating a bit with the NHR, but I do feel it's important. It was only ever for 10 years, wasn't it? So, for example, somebody from the United States who was enjoying 10% taxation on their pension income, for example, that was a benefit that was only ever going to last for 10 years. Is that correct?
Right. Correct.
And what happens after that? Because a lot of people think, okay, it's 10 years. I'm going to be old. I'm not going to be worried about that right now. But what happens after 10 years?
Well, after 10 years, you become a normal tax resident, and the normal rules apply and the normal tax brackets will apply. So after those 10 years, the tax brackets in Portugal start at 15% and they go as high as 48%. And the highest tax bracket is around 75k euros per year. So for US citizens, this is reached quite easily, and that's why it's a concern, the change in the NHR. But usually with the agreements to avoid double taxation, the person will not be double taxed. He may pay the difference here in Portugal if the taxation here in the country is higher than in the US, but he will not be double taxed. So after those 10 years, indeed, the taxation exemption would be lost and they would be taxed normally as if they were just a normal tax resident in Portugal, as I am taxed here in the country.
Okay, and for somebody on their social security, on their government pension from the United States, this is going to be a quite popular scenario, maybe an unpopular scenario as it turns out. But somebody on a social security pension, what is their likely taxation? I mean, it was going to come to an end after 10 years. Now it's going to come to an end at the end of this, well, sometime in 24. What do you think the likely taxation would be on the lowest sort of social security pensions, Daniel, or is that a bit out of your remit?
It's a bit out of my scope, but it highly depends on the total income that the person has, because right. It's not only the social security pension that is accounted for, but to ascertain the tax brackets. It's all the income obtained globally, either through capital gains, through rental income. So the income is ascertained globally and not just connected with the social security income. And again, this starts in the 14% bracket and it goes for the 48%. That's the maximum that you're taxed here in Portugal. But let's say that for this specific scenario, that you would earn 100K in the US, and that for that 100K, you would be taxed at 30%. In Portugal, if the normal rules apply, you would pay, in principle, just the 18% tax difference between the 30% and the 18%. This is just crude a way of explaining the NHR, but it's at least a way to convey the system, how it works without the NHR. Okay.
Very interesting. And as you said at the beginning, I mean, this is very important for people to have a consultation with a taxation / wealth planning professional on this. And Astrid, if I can bring you in here, we are looking at a special webinar, aren't we, next week? Daniel will be back at 7:30 with Gilda. And Ben is asking a question in the chat here. Is there an accountant as part of the dream team? Perhaps by next Thursday, we can bring on some of our folks from the business directory who deal with this. Who should Ben look for in the business directory, Astrid?
All finance matters would probably be the best. They our taxation people down in the Algarve, but they do look after people foreign people moving to Portugal, and but definitely reach out to them. They'll be able to help you too.
All right, that's great, and we're all over this. I mean, this is very new to the whole picture of moving to Portugal. This change, we're looking at it at Expats Portugal. So come to the webinar next Thursday, where Daniel will be here and Gilda, so that we don't dominate the whole evening this evening with the NHL. But I understand why people want to talk about it, and I'm just reflecting a few of the questions there. So let's go back to the chat and the questions, and we've got Nunu here as well on insurance, Philippa from EI, and we've got Romain here to talk about not pensions, mortgages, of course, as well. Okay, Marcy and Jason, the NHL was part of our calculus in deciding to apply for the D8, but now we are a month post-application, well within the visa pipeline and committed with the promise of not having the NHR available, even for grandfathering. That is extremely bad timing. I think that's not so much a question, but more an observation about the situation that some people are finding them in as well. Is Portugal taking their foot off the gas? You might like to answer this, Philippa or Daniel. Is Portugal taking their foot off the gas when it comes to immigration? Philippa, I don't think people need to take this personally, that they're no longer welcome in Portugal, right? This was a long overdue decision in a way, wasn't it? It was never going to last forever.
Of course, Carl, not at all. We are still embracing everyone here in Portugal, and we have the best migration law in the world, as you know. So, plus we have a public health system that is available for everyone. That's a very important aspect for everyone that wants to come to Portugal. So, regarding the NHR, I understand that's a real concern for everyone, but remember that we still maintain the non-double taxation conventions. They are still valid. So considering everything and the cost of living, that even though is a bit higher now, it's still very affordable for everyone. So I'm sure we are not closing. This is a decision that comes with the Mais Habitação project that has to do with the leases and everything that everyone is talking about now, the prices for renting. So the goal is to make sure everyone is at the same level, probably. Yeah. But I'm sure we have other things that will attract people to come to Portugal.
Yeah, and if anything, Portugal's not a victim of its own success, but like this is part of what's happened, isn't it? The popularity of Portugal,
of course,
and the recovery that's taken place over the last decade or so has all pointed us in this direction. So I understand that it's a shock for people, but we'll do our best as a community to manage that shock and bring you the best information around it. Thanks, Philippa, for the time being. For Daniel, if an EU citizen comes into the country for the 3-month period to get residency, can they leave for a work trip? This might actually be for you, Philippa. Can they leave for a work trip or have to stay for the duration of the 3 months? I'm not sure I understand that, Thaisa. Do you understand that, Philippa?
No, can you repeat that, please?
I think, Thaisa, we might need a bit more context, but the question is, if an EU citizen comes into the country for the 3-month period to get residency, okay, the first 90 days, can they leave for a work trip or have to stay for the duration of the 3 months? They can come and go, can't they, in that time? I think we've got you muted there, Philippa.
Sorry, if they are EU citizen, that they can travel inside the EU. countries, no problem about that.
Yeah, and that's a maximum, isn't it? Rather than the amount.
After 3
total.
months, after 3 months, if they want to stay as a EU citizen, they have to apply for the certificate, European certificate.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much, Philippa. Thank you for your question, Thaisa. Let us know. It was difficult to get our heads around that question, but if you can give us a bit more information on that, that would be great. Linda and Derek, good evening to you. Good to see you here. Thank you, everybody, for your questions that are coming in now. Karen is asking an insurance question, Nuno. I wanted to know about the process of getting insurance and if having pre-existing conditions may prevent one from getting insurance, and is going through an agent broker first the best way to do it. Can you answer that in a general sense, please, Nuno?
Yes, globally, the insurance offer to people with the pregnancy conditions is very, very short. So, but there are solutions in the Portuguese market that fully covers pregnancy conditions. Okay, so don't worry. It's just a question of if you need some information, please call us and we'll go forward with that. Okay,
and the
no
benefits of using an agent or a broker, certainly in your case, is that you can actually speak to somebody, which is quite useful if you're not familiar with how the country works.
Yeah, and we work with all of the main health insurers, so we know pretty well the wordings. Usually, people just look to the name of the coverage and the limits, and this means not much, because what commands the insurance policy is the wording. So, because we work with all of them, we know the differences and which we need to pick up to serve better each one.
Brilliant. Okay, while we're with you, Nuno, Tom's asking, how does health insurance work when you're getting a prescription filled? Prescriptions in Portugal.
Okay, so it depends on the typical answer. It depends on the insurance plan. Nevertheless, to all the plans that cover medication, you need to send the prescription and the bill to the insurer and ask for a refund. A point which is important is that you can have a prescription from a public doctor or a private doctor. So no matter the doctor, the procedure with the health insurance is the same. Okay.
All right, that's great.
And the benefits regarding medication, because we have a lot of medication funded by the Portuguese state, and it is not important if it was a public doctor or a private doctor who did the prescription. Okay.
That's great. Thanks, Nuno, for that. There's a comment from Tom as well about, if you want to know about the cost of living in Portugal, watch O Preço Certo on RTP1. Is that true and fair, Portuguese people? Will that give us foreigners a sense of the cost of living in Portugal? Watching, I mean, he's got a terrible nickname, isn't he? Literally translated Little Fatty, the guy who presents that show. I think Philippa's nodding in agreement that he might. What do you think, Philippa?
No, well, the price is right. Yeah, well, it's a good show. It's a very entertaining show, but I don't think you'll have a correct idea about the cost of living in Portugal.
All right, thanks. Nice try, Tom. Thank you for that, Philippa. And he is a legend. He's a national hero, isn't he? The man who presents it. Quite the funny guy. Back to Daniel. Thought this might come up tonight. Denise, thank you for this question. Can you please comment on the Mais Habitação ruling and how this will affect getting a rental property when you arrive in Portugal? Now, we've covered this a lot. The notable thing about it was that it actually was promulgated and went past the president finally, didn't it, earlier this week?
Correct. My take on the situation is that the political measures will do worse and will do the exact opposite effect that the prime minister wants. So the prime minister and everyone wants affordable housing and more houses in the market available to be rented. But if the landlords see that the rules are tightening and that the risks that they have are greater, they will just avoid putting houses in the market. And I said this before in this show, the solution, or one of the solutions to have more houses in the market would be to have our legal system expedited in terms of evictions, because it's a slow process to evict someone that is not paying the rent. And one of the reasons that you see the deposits, people requesting so many months of deposit and higher rents, is to cover the risk of defaulting people paying rent. So one thing that would for sure just put more houses in the market and would provide more trust in the market is definitely faster evictions. And then, of course, social housing for social cases. And this is a thing that we're lacking. And to build social housing, or to build any type of housing, this takes 6, 7, 8 years. So this should have been taught 8 years ago and not now. And now we're seeing the results of not having a social housing policy in place, especially in the big cities. So my take on this is that this is just a lot of show and no go. They won't obtain any results with the law, because the golden visa was not in high density areas since the end of 2021. So it was not affecting the Lisbon, Porto, even Coimbra markets. So it hasn't a point to remove the golden visa for those areas, for the coastal properties, because the coastal properties were out of reach of the golden visa. Mm-hmm. The NHR will eventually avoid some people that were on the fence to come to Portugal. So probably this is a measure that is considering having less people coming to Portugal, and thus more availability of the houses. But the problem is scarcity of houses is not too many people in Portugal. Portugal is a small country, but we only are 10 million here. There's a lot of space in the country, a lot of empty space actually. So the problem is lack of housing and not lack of space. That's,
right. And these measures are not in any time soon going to be affecting that, are they? The real big problem, I suppose, is supply and demand. Let's face it. You know, as we said before, with Philippa, this country is getting more and more popular. There are more and more people who want rentals and want to buy property here. And the supply just isn't there right now. And it's going to take a little while for probably the private sector actually to come in and provide the solutions to the housing crisis.
For sure, but the problem for the private sector is the time that it takes to obtain construction licensing and approval of projects. The government did something on this actually. So the Mais Habitação, one of the positive measures that it has, and that is that basically it tries to simplify the approval of projects, and the municipalities are obliged to either state rapidly the reason why they are not approving and what they want corrected, or the project will be approved automatically. And I think that this is fairly good. Although this needs to be counterbalanced, I think, with inspections from the municipalities and the construction sites, just to see if things are being built up to code. And this is where probably things will create a bit more problems, because inspections should occur just to see if properties are being well developed.
Yeah.
So that's one good measure out of the Mais Habitação package. Probably one of the ones, or probably the only one that is a positive measure. All the other measures will create the exact same, or the exact opposite effect that the government wants, and this is more houses in the market. The market can resolve a lot of things, but the markets cannot resolve social problems. The market is not there to resolve social problems. And for social problems, you need government intervention and social housing. And this is where the government is lacking, because they haven't started any big projects developing social housing. Thus, there's a lot of young people and people on the bottom end of the social classes, if you want to put it that way, that are not able to put a foot in the property ladder, and they're not even able to put a foot on the rental market. So it creates a lot of frustration, And it does create a situation that you see a lot of, if you go, well, social networks, they are usually not a kind place to be, but if you go into the comments on a Facebook, once someone puts a house to rent, you'll see a lot of really negative comments about pricing and about all types of negative hate towards landlords and all that. So things are a bit uneased at the rentals and the property market, I would say, because there's a lot of people disgruntled about the situation.
Yeah, well, a good analysis. And I saw Romain is nodding with quite a lot of your analysis there. And I'm sure as somebody who helps with the financing of house purchases in Portugal, you might have something to say on the matter, Romain.
Yeah, Daniel was talking about how complicated it can be to build something from scratch with all the authorization. We need to have all the paper and everything. And for the bank, when you want to finance it with a mortgage, we need the special documents at the end of the construction that we called the license of utilization, basically a document issued by the town hall stating that everything is completely done. And before having this document, we cannot even talk about organizing the final deed with the notary, and the bank won't give any money before having this document, which means that depending on the contract that you have with the builder, you might have to pay a lot from your own pocket up until the final deed, you see? So even if we manage to have the approvals to get the mortgage or end the construction, the timing can be super complicated because, you know, we cannot have unlimited approvals from the bank. We always need to update everything. So yeah, that's quite complicated when it comes to new constructions.
And you can help people with this because that's what people are looking for, isn't it? Not just lending them the money, but a bit of hand-holding and counseling at times as well, I suspect. Yeah,
definitely. And, you know, as the mortgage broker, we are always in the middle of everyone, you know, the lawyer, the real estate agent, the constructor, the bank, obviously. And our job at that moment, once we have the mortgage approval, is to make sure everyone is doing his job, you see. But when everyone do, things are going pretty smoothly.
Okay, I can't see the name of the company on the screen there. And we know you're the mortgage.
Yeah, I was trying to see, but I think the Zoom is too important, so I'll try to fix that for
Please pop all your details in the chat so people can get in touch with you if they're looking to finance their purchase here in Portugal. That's wonderful, Romain. Thank you for your analysis and contribution there. I think we've got Sarah as well with us tonight. Good evening to you, Sarah. I kept her waiting for ages, and that's it's a bit unfair as it suddenly say, "Oh, hi, Sarah."
Hello.
Yeah, sorry, Sarah. Go ahead. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Great to be here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Well, thank you for joining the Dream Team tonight. Is it still advantageous and looking good for dollar holders to buy euros?
It is. So I do come with some positive news.
Yay!
Yay!
On Republic Day as well. Well done.
So yeah, if you're selling US dollars, buying euros, great time. I mean, this week we were sort of 10-month highs. Fantastic time. So get your euros, get to Portugal ASAP.
There you go. All the details you need on the screen there as well for Spartan FX. And get in touch. Expats Portugal at spartanfx.co.uk. Superb. Do chip in, Sarah, should you wish to. We'll get back to a few more of the not personal questions, but questions from a personal point of view here. And we'll go to a citizenship question, which of course will go to Daniel. I'm 68 years of age. I will be in a few months. So it'll be my 5th year in Portugal, and I will apply for citizenship. And I have a question. This is Martin. Where should I get the police clearance report from? Due to the nature of my work, I worked and lived for over a year in over 20 countries. That could be complicated. It's impossible to get the certificates from all those countries. What does somebody do in that situation, Daniel?
Well, what the law states is that you should obtain a criminal record in all the places that you lived for more than 1 year. This is what the law states.
Yikes.
On a practical matter, don't ask, don't tell policy. So you provide the criminal record of your place of passport, and unless in the passport it's perceivable that you lived in any of the places, you don't need to provide the criminal record of those other 20 places that you lived. So that's basically how we approach the situation on a practical level, because we do have international clients that lived in 10 places all their lives, more than a year, and this would mean 10 criminal records. So as long as in the most recent passport it's not perceivable that you lived in the other countries, then you don't provide that document, and we've been having success with that policy for the time being.
That's really good to know, and I'm sure that's a big relief for Martin this evening. Excellent stuff. You're getting great feedback tonight, as usual, Daniel. As usual, Daniel is outstanding. Thank you very much, says ZE. And I do realize there are lots of NHR questions, and we're having our NHR special, so make sure you register for that this coming Thursday, where Daniel and Gilda will be here. Just one clarification, because I think I'll take this one because it's quite, well, it's more universal than it's personal. Tom is saying there's a tax treaty between the United States and Portugal that says whatever is taxed in the United States isn't taxed in Portugal. That would make the NHR unnecessary, since all of my income would be my US pension. Is that a correct analysis? Because I think other people will be in that condition.
Depends
This
on the
is
type
Diana. I don't think that's correct. I'm a CPA in the US.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit off.
Okay.
Take that with a big grain of salt, because it depends on the type of income. In some specific types of income, Portugal may say we waive the application of any taxation here in Portugal. Let's say, I think one of the examples is capital gains on property sales. As long as that income is taxed on the country where the property was sold, it's not going to be taxed here in Portugal. In some specific situations, in some treaties, this is a reality. So take that with a huge grain of salt, because it's not for all streams of income. It's not for all treaties. And for the US one, a lot of income is taxed in the US and then would be taxed here in Portugal. On the difference, if any, if the difference here is superior, you're only taxed on the difference. That's basically
okay. Well, that's the first. We might come back to Diana on that, because it could be useful to have your insight, Diana. But I think the point of Tom's question is whether or not the tax treaty means that it wouldn't be taxed in Portugal. If his only income is going to be a US pension, I suppose that needs qualification as well, because there'll be a difference, won't there, if it's a government pension or pension income from a fund?
Correct. You need to declare the pension in the US, you need to declare the pension here, and without the NHR for pension, you will be taxed on the difference. So the double taxation agreement avoids being taxed twice. But if the income bracket in the US is 20% and here would be 30%, you will be taxed on the difference, and the difference in this hypothetical case is 10%. But Diana has her hand up, so probably she can chip in on this.
That'd be really helpful, Diana. And that's why we're having an NHR special next Thursday, okay? So if you need to get this sorted out, call Daniel and Reza Pelicano tomorrow, if it's really that urgent, and it will be for some people. Otherwise, our next best offer of help is next Thursday for the special webinar where Daniel will return with Gilda. Diana, thank you for being here tonight. An American CPA. You could probably have the last 15 minutes of this webinar, I suspect.
Oh, well, so I'm just going to use this gratuitously because I did have a question, so I'll throw that in the end.
Go on.
But what I was going to suggest is, if you're an American citizen and you want to know more about the tax treaties, they're all available on irs.gov.
Right.
So the Internal Revenue Services website. And when you do go and check out the tax treaty, you will then want to hire a tax advisor.
Right,
because the tax treaty talks about every different kind of income and what's the tax rate. So that's why Daniel was trying to explain that there's no simple answer to that question.
It's a classic Portuguese depende, isn't it? I think,
exactly.
Right, okay. And Diana,
but now my question, because I'm actually
Nicely
in
done.
Lisbon. I'm in Lisbon by myself this weekend. So I wanted to join in to see if anybody was interested in lunch or dinner this weekend, if they're free.
Wow, what a fantastic way to shoehorn a social life into a webinar. I like what you did there.
And I promise not to talk about taxes because that generally sends people into a coma.
Let's talk about tax codes. All right. Diana, I'm sure, is approachable via direct message in the Zoom. That's a very brilliant offer. And have fun in Lisbon, Diana, while you're here. And thank you for your contribution. All right. I think we have one for Philippa here. Thanks, Diana. If your country, this is the Naunu, if your country is taking too much time to provide an appointment date for the 4-month residency visa, is it possible to go to some other country to get an appointment? If yes, which country would you suggest? We'd probably need to know the specifics, but it's not really, right, Philippa?
No. So, Carl, if you are applying for residency in Portugal, you cannot travel to another country and ask for residency there. Yeah. So you need to wait. I'm sure everyone is aware of the difficulties we are struggling with CEF, the migration services in Portugal. But we are hoping that everything will be easier by the end of the month when the new agency will start operating. So by this, at the moment, things are difficult, but we are hoping that new news will be reaching us by the end of this month.
Yeah, because I didn't even ask you about that, did I? I mean, the NHR has overshadowed news this week, and I didn't even get a chance to ask you if you've heard anything from CEF, APMA, IMA, or any of the 8 authorities that are involved. Is there any news from their office this week?
So at the moment, we know that by the end of October, we will have IMA starting. We don't know for sure how it's going to be. Hopefully it will be better, but I don't know. Yeah. Like Danielle said, the government is saying a lot of things, but I don't know if will be the effect they want to. Right. So hopefully we'll be better and we will be able to respond to all the demands that people are having.
Yes, fingers crossed for that. Thanks for being here tonight. Yeah, absolutely. Boa sorte, all involved. Boa sorte a todos. Brian, I think this might be about the pound. All very well, isn't it, if you're a dollar holder? But is your question, what if you're a Great British pound holder?
It's not, no.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. What's your question?
It's completely unrelated to everything we spoke about tonight.
Right.
It's more about the travel side afterwards, after the VSS appointment.
Yeah.
They generally ask for a flight, a flight ticket. I was actually thinking of traveling by car and bringing the pets over at the same time.
Yeah.
At the agreement date. Is that a problem or not?
So the question then for Philippa is, if instead of giving a flight, do you just say when you're driving to Portugal from the United Kingdom?
Yeah, could I get a ticket for the Eurotunnel and use that as the same as a flight ticket and say I'm going to drive over?
Okay, Brian, so what we need when you go to CEF, we need to prove the entry dates. Usually we use the passport because when you travel by plane, you have the entry stamp. If you're not traveling by plane, we need to make sure that you have entered Portugal. When did you enter? So usually we ask CEF a document, it's called an entrance certificate, and they stamp it. However, at the moment, they have no slots to ask for that certificate. So my advice is to get some kind of proof that you are entering Portugal, paying the tolls or if you are going to an Airbnb, ask for an invoice. So that will be a proof of your entrance in Portugal.
Yeah, the paper trail is very important, isn't it? And it's quite good training, isn't it, for when you're coming to Portugal, to keep a record of things, keep your receipts. How long for, Philippa?
So keep it until you go to CEF and until you get your residency card, just in case. And when you got your residency card, you can throw them to the trash.
Wow, that's a quick turnaround on those potentially. I went and paid some the Portugal tolls the other day at a post office, and the receipt was as long as one of the journeys I made, I swear. Okay, get used to that. Get used to receipts and lots of paperwork here in Portugal, Brian. And I'm sure you did ask, how is the GBP against the euro?
I did, yes.
All right, fair enough. Sarah, would you like to comment on that?
Mute there. So what, sterling euro? Well, actually, two things to say on that really. One is that we may see some more sterling strength this year because the Bank of England may increase interest rates towards the end of the year. And also we had data came out last week that showed that GDP data that actually the economy, we might not go into recession this year, which is positive. So we may see slight sterling strength on the back of that. But what I would say is that, and that goes for even euro, US dollar, other currencies as well, that we're very data driven and sentiment driven. So things are coming out all the time around inflation data, whether the central banks are increasing interest rates or keeping them on hold, what the sentiment's out, whether like people like Christine Lagarde, what they're coming out and saying after the announcement to imply what they're going to do next. Anything around the state of the economy, you know, at the moment the US is very strong. Eurozone, they've downgraded their forecast of their economic recovery. So all of that, we're watching it very closely. So as much as I said, we may forecast and think this is what's going to happen going forward, some data could come out and completely throw that off and do things that go against expectations. So we just have to really watch the market very closely at the moment. I'd say it could be quite volatile at times.
Okay, and you can come to a deal as well, can't you, and agree a price ahead of time and put a deposit on that with Spartan if you find a favourable point that you want to buy at.
Yeah, so we've got a few options. So I know that everyone's got different sort of time frames, but even if you've not got a Portuguese bank account open, you can still buy your euros in advance of needing them. We can hold them on account for you, especially if you're thinking of buying property. We can fix the rate for you. It just helps control your budget. It may be that you can be looking into a favourable rate, especially at the moment, obviously, for selling US dollars and buying euros. And it just means that maybe we can make that process a bit cheaper with actually the rate movements. I mean, certainly if we look at this week, selling US dollars and buying euros, now it's about 20,000 US dollars cheaper to buy your euros if you were buying 250,000 euros than it was 3 months ago. And that's just on the rate movement. That's not against the rate that we would offer against your bank. That's just on the timing of your exchanges. So that's why I was trying to say it's really important to be factoring that in, or just be aware of it, and really use us for that. You're very busy. There's lots to consider with the move, the visa, lots of things. Let us just handle that side of things for you.
That's a car. Well, for some people, that's half a car in Portugal, but it's still quite a lot of car. 20K, even in Portugal. Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Sarah. And I'm gonna conclude tonight on a timescale question for all of the panel. I've got a couple of quickies for Philippa before then, but I want to, with how it is with moving to Portugal, that there are so many moving parts, and timing is everything, like it is in many things in life. And I'm going to come to each of the panelists as we conclude tonight to find out the right time to engage with you when moving to Portugal. Before we do that, Philippa, I've got a question about Mexico. Do you have an opinion on working with the VFS in Mexico, which was a question that came in?
Oh, I would love to clear that, but I don't. My area is not the visa.
Of course, yes, you are.
Gilda will help you with that next week.
Chris, call the office or come.
Yeah, just ring us or send us an email. We will be happy to help you.
Philippa, my bad on that. You are, of course, part of the lawyer team that goes in with people to the CEF appointments and not the front end of the visas there. So you can get an opinion on that from Gilda next week, certainly on the Dream Team session. And there was a question about if one, I don't know if you can help with this one, is one able to come into Portugal ahead of the D7 visa active date if you've received a CEF appointment on a regular travel visa? Would you recommend that? Would that be okay?
I'm sure. Didn't understand.
There's nothing to stop somebody coming in on a tourism visa. The 90-day one, is there? ahead
course
of
not.
their D7 active visa
No,
date. So,
but they
Gail,
want to
do
make
I-
sure they have their visa before the date.
yes, or a way of getting their visa.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, right. Okay.
Before their self-appointment.
Yes,
That's really
thank you for
important.
that. Okay, we've got about 3 minutes to go. It's been amazing tonight. I've got to say, we are officially overwhelmed. Probably a lot to do with the NHR. We've got the special coming up next Thursday about that. Daniel and Gilda will be there. On a more general point, engaging with the professionals here on the Dream Team. Let's stay with you on the screen there, Philippa. And this comes from a question asked by Gina in the chat over on YouTube. What's the right time to get applying for your visa when you've decided to move to Portugal?
The right time to apply for a visa? Well, first, if you decide to move, just the best thing to do is just call us and we'll make a call and just explain all the procedure first.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So get an overview. Basically, your answer is call straight away. Talk it over, find out what's required to move to Portugal with EI, and then have a consultation call, and you'll provide a plan so people have got an overview on that. It's probably one of the first calls you should make, although other Dream Team panelists might disagree. They might say, call me the same day. Let's ask Daniel. What's a good time to call you for your services, Daniel, in the process of moving to Portugal?
Well, before you commit to anything, sign any document, even consider buying a house, please let us know first, because I can break down the initial process of buying a property here in Portugal. Or if you want to set up a company before you do any steps, it's quite useful to have a call with us. Usually, I do like to have this initial call to break the situations down and to explain in detail all the processes that the client wishes to do. So reach us out, send us an email, even if you're thinking about coming to Portugal only in 2024. We'll be more than happy to assist. So basically, before you even step in Portugal, I would say it's excellent to have a chat with us.
Yeah, and these calls can be very reassuring, revealing and reassuring, I think is what people find. Let's go to Romain. If you want to come to Portugal, buy a house here, should you wait until you found the property? What's the right time to reach out to you?
Absolutely no. You need to talk to us first.
Okay, all right.
It is the worst case scenario when you already have the property and then you come to us. We need to work like in a rush. You can lose the property. It is a nightmare for us. So as soon as you have the idea of buying something here in Portugal, I mean, the sooner the better. So even if it's like in a year or in 6 months, it's always better to have like a 20-30-minute chat together to talk about the situation, the project, and do some simulations together. Because sometimes we can even readjust a little bit the situation of the client in order to be in the best spot possible in a few months when we will actually apply for the mortgage. So yeah, definitely the best scenario is to talk to us first and even do like 3 or 4, meeting even before jumping into looking at the properties. And same for the real estate agent. He will love the fact that you already have your approvals, because otherwise he might lose his time. So that's how we work.
Well said, Romain. So make the call and have a chat. You make it sound really exciting. Run through some simulations. Wow.
Yeah, because talking about numbers without showing anything might make the 30 minutes super long. So we always do some simulation and then send everything by email. So it's
perfect. Thank you. And your details are in the chat now, I see. Thank you for that. Let's go to Sarah. What's the right time, timing wise, with Spartan?
I'm not sure I can follow that, to be honest, but
basically,
I mean, I suppose when you are serious about moving, have a call. It's free to have a chat, and I would definitely say, similar to I think what Daniel said, before you even step on the plane, because there is an element of people come over, they want to try and move their money, and it's a bit more difficult, or their banks have some restrictions in place, and it just makes life a lot easier if we can have those conversations with you and you can put things in place just to make that process of sending money even from your bank easier. So when you're really serious about moving, give us a call. Or
Dwight is helping you out. Dwight says, yeah, Steve Flack, other people do work at Spartan as well, as well as Steve, but obviously a very happy customer there. And shout out for Steve if you could pass that on to him tomorrow morning.
Will do,
Sarah,
thank you.
thanks for being here tonight. Great to see you. Finally, last but not least, Nunu. Now, Nunu is well known for helping people at the last minute because he's such a nice bloke. But ideally, we don't want to put you in that position, right, Nunu?
Yes, yes. So we know that often we handle with urgencies, but if we can avoid it, I'll appreciate a lot. So usually the process, the regular or the normal process is the VFS appointment or consulate or embassy, and afterwards the SEF appointment. So when you have clear these dates, we can start handling with both the travel incoming insurance and the health insurance. But sometimes there are people that start on the reverse, so they start buying a house in Portugal. And the moment is when you know that you will buy the house, you have everything scheduled with the owner and the loyal, so we can start handling and looking to quotes.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, and there you go. The details for Nunu have been put into the chat. Thank you, Dream Team. You've been amazing. Lots of people sending their thanks. I'll take one comment which basically sums up how people feel about you tonight. Thanks, everyone. As usual, exceptional, says Denise. Information specialists, each and every one of you. So thank you so much to all of you. Over to you, Astrid. Haven't they done a brilliant job tonight?
Been incredible, and I've been watching all this the on YouTube, all the comments there as well, and everyone's saying bravo. So thank you everybody for your time. But we're over time for tonight. Thank you for the Dream Team for turning up. It is public holiday here in Portugal, so I understand that you've gone up and out of your way to be with us tonight. We'll see everyone on Saturday night for Hank and Connie's social Saturdays. But also, I think there's been a few comments about when to RSVP for next Thursday's event. It will be in the event calendar on Monday. So Sally will put that up on Monday. She'll send out the email to everybody if you're on our database, alerting you of the availability there. It is a premium and plus member exclusive event, this one. So please, if you haven't joined up as a paid member of ours, we'd love to have you as part of our community. So yes.
Thanks, Astrid. Wonderful. And thank you one more time, the Dream Team. Thanks for all your questions. Sorry we didn't get to them all. That's what's happening these days. It's a very busy session. And the next best place to go to ask your questions is the Expats Portugal forum, which is expatsportugal.com/community. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And yeah, and I'll underline those thanks to you, especially you Portuguese Dream Team members. Thank you for being here on a public holiday. Until next week, see you then.